everybody. So it's Monica, Carlotta, and T, aka Tahira. So we're like the BIE founders, but today we are going to showcase our BIE video and we're going to kind of commentate it a little bit. So this is us playing like we usually do, and it could be funny or it could be really profound. So Carlotta, our resident producer, director, videographer, is going to start the video. Yes. So starting out, Black in Engineering Social Justice Movement. What about the Black in Engineering logo? How did this come about?
We knew we needed something that represented us, and we really brainstormed, but we knew none of us had that artistic talent. But thank God for my brother, Kerry Gerard Johnson, my 5-year older brother, who's a graphic artist, and he blessed us with this logo, pro bono.
Yes, and I think we'll have the link to his website later on. And we were looking for an image that represented what we were talking about. And so we found this on unsplash.com and kind of used it throughout our movement. So that's a memory. And I think Clay
Banks is the photographer on Unsplash. And we've actually used several of his work in several of our videos because all his pictures are about social justice movements, and they just always seem to hit. So I've used several of them in some of our other videos as well.
Yes, we love you, Clay Banks.
We love you, Clay. We love you, big brother.
And the last thing is the music.
So the music was from Facebook Sound Collection, and it's Mbele. Our first video had Angelique Struthers in it, and she sung Andra Day, We Rise. And after that, we met Muta Ali, and we asked him for some hints on making videos that are impactful. And one thing he told us that he does is he uses Facebook Sound Collection, where artists upload their MP3 work for free. And since then, all of our subsequent videos have come from Facebook Sound Collection, and this one is from Mbele. It's an African artist.
I want to give a shout out to T. Because we were using resources in this movement. So Tahira had gone to school with Muta Ali, and I think she knew Angelique, and so she was pulling out serious resources, trying to get stuff done. So yes, and we knew, and this is like a business tip, do not think that you could just take music off of the internet and use it for videos or for anything that you want to do, because you might have to you need to pay, but there might be some copyright issues too. So that's just some advice.
We did. Even for the instrumental version of We Rise with Andra Day, we had to pay for the copyright to use that, just for the artist to sing over it.
And you contacted her people. And so that's where I think my husband came in to tell us, like, you need to pay or something. And then you contacted her people, and her people said, yes, we can actually use this.
Yes.
And just to clarify too, so Angelique came through, she's a friend of a friend, and she lives in Pittsburgh, and with the pandemic and everyone working remotely, it just seemed easy to, even though she was totally not near any of us, she was available and she was able to get into the studio that weekend. And as I mentioned, Muta Ali is someone I went to school with, and I've always known him for his abilities in film and all things visual arts. He's just always been that way. And so he was ready and willing to give us some advice. And that was so helpful of him. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
I will push pray, ladies.
Paul.
Okay, my glamorized version.
So what was that conversation it started with?
No, it started with, it was a Friday afternoon. I remember dates well, but dates and times and stuff. But yes, we were actually working on another project. Mm-hmm. And Carlotta and I were working with another colleague. Am I allowed to say her name?
Yeah, why not?
Would she want me to say her name? Okay, because yes. So Dr. Tequila Harris, we're working on a project.
Tequila.
An undisclosed project right now. And yeah, we kind of talked about what was going on. So I think the murder of George Floyd happened, And I don't think we could really concentrate on the project that we were doing. And we're like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we talked for a little bit. And then I think we mentioned the ARL network and how there was something that came out on the network, I think from Raheem Baya, and we decided to call Raheem. I think I was the one who was like, I have Raheem's number. Let's call Raheem because we need to do something. We need to get people together. So we got Raheem on our Zoom call or whatever call we're on, WebEx. And then Raheem is so laid back and he was like, yeah, whatever y'all want to do, this is our organization. And we just set something up, sent an email out that Friday because we knew that the listserv was going out. And we said, we're going to have a meeting. Please come to the meeting like the following Tuesday. Yeah. And that's where that came in.
I want to say 70 people. I think the number was about 70 faculty, Black faculty from all over that showed up, because everyone needed a space to just process what was going on. And I think what happened is when George Floyd, we saw what happened. Black people are so used to social injustice and when it comes to the criminal justice system. But it made us think of the other ways that Black people are marginalized and deal with social justice. So I think even though, yes, a lot of us were all, academics doing well, but seeing George Floyd, we have people in our family that look like that. That could be someone's brother or uncle or father. We felt like that was our cousin. That felt like family, somebody. I mean, it could have been any of our family members. And so that pain was just really salient. I mean, I actually could not watch the video of the George Floyd killing until I want to say a week and a half after it was released. I heard what happened and I was like, the visual is enough for me. And my husband was watching Star Trek and there was some scene with a man being roughed up. And I was like, you got to turn that off. I was crying. I was just, because it was a violent scene, I couldn't even deal with that visual and at that point, I still had not watched the video, just that alone. And then also the Central Park nonsense was going on too, the same day.
Yeah, Christian Cooper and the bird watchers and all that. Yeah, it was. And then the other thing, I just thought about this last week because we now have had the George Floyd one and the one of the guy from 2 years ago that they said was a car accident that it turns out it was not. And I just thought about this. I was like, I've never seen a person die in person, but we now have all heard people die on TV. Like, they said there's like a death rattle when someone's dying. And it's like, we now have all been there because we've all seen these videos online over and over and over again. So you're right. It's like, I don't want to see any more people dying on TV or on social media.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I was thinking about Tahira because Tahira came later. And so Tahira, how did you join this? Because I think we put the call out and maybe you just said you wanted to be a part of this or you wanted to move forward and do something. Do you remember?
I know because of that project, I think we were interacting and I don't even remember how it came to be. I just know I
remember.
Go ahead, Carlotta.
Because Monica and I did not get the listserv in real time. We only got it on Friday nights. After Tequila had mentioned that Raheem had put a post out about maybe having a call to action of some sort, we reached out to you to forward the email to us because we didn't want to wait to get it that night. Remember? Because the emails only come out at 9:00 on Friday nights. And I want to say our meetings have been maybe Wednesdays. So we found out there was something on it on Wednesday that we needed to see. Okay. But we didn't want to wait till Friday night to see it. So we had contacted you and you sent it to us. And that's when we started dialoguing with you via email, like, we got to do something about this. We got to have a meeting because you feel so hopeless and helpless. We had to come up with something to feel like we were doing something.
Yeah, all I know is I remember there was a point that we were working on stuff every day, nonstop. Yeah. I remember Monica's like, is there anybody else that's thinking about this every day? All I know is I had gotten to a place where I was just like, I cannot just sit back. I have to do something. I tend to be very neutral and chill, just kind of heads down, do my work, not big ruffle feather ruffling type person, but I was just, I don't know how to describe it, but I was in a moment where I was just like, I have to do something. I cannot not do anything. I have to put my hands to something to impact change, to make a difference. I just knew it was very strong.
Yeah, and I had an aha moment too, because Carlotta was on sabbatical, Tahira was on sabbatical, and I used to be a department chair, and my term ended on June 1st. And I told people, I'm not dealing with y'all anymore. Like, I'm done. And so I did an out of office, and it was just the timing. It was the fact that all three of us were kind of in a space where we had time to do this in that moment. And my aha, like I said, is that it's amazing what can happen when we actually have space to do this work. Like when we are coordinating at the same time to do work that matters, that's great. And I think people are constantly telling us, like, they're asking us how we got so much stuff done in a year. And it's because we actually had time to do it at the same time, and we worked together to get it done. So I just feel like that's a lesson in something.
Can I talk about that out of office though, just for a second, to hear? That out of office response was a social justice movement all in itself. Oh, honey, yeah. The first time I wrote her at work and I got that auto reply, for about a week, I would just write her just so I could get the response, because her response was, if I have not committed to do anything with you before June 1st of this year, you are not on my plates. And if you want to know what I'm doing, I'm out here addressing racial injustice in the STEM Academy. And I was so inspired by Monica that I went and changed my auto email while I was on sabbatical to say, I am not available. I am on sabbatical. But if you want to know what I'm doing while I'm on sabbatical, and I linked to the Black in Engineering and Black in Robotics website, you don't know how many people have like said, I went to visit those websites after getting your auto response. Monica inspired me to do the same. And I try to educate.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. The ultimate thing I remember that people thought was so funny. And so Monica Platt said this too. And Monica thinks I'm funny for some reason, but it was one of those things of, if you want to see me, watch this video. Like, I'm not even going to talk to you. I mean, I think that was the part. It was like, if you need me, you can watch me in this video talking about my something social justice, but that's the only way you're going to get in touch with me. And I put boundaries in place. Like, I felt that there was just something. This connected back to Black in the Ivory. It connected back to just all the injustices. And I was tired. Like, there was so much that had happened that I just told people, you're not going to get in my space. And so I really wanted to help focus on this at this moment. Like, my passion was somewhere else, and I just didn't apologize for it. And so, yay.
And the other piece, remember, everyone was home because of the pandemic. So you had
That's right.
just a lot of opportunity to just be at a computer, right? So that was another element.
I think that was one reason why all those busy professors who we normally could never coordinate with were able to come to our call to action meetings, because for once, everybody is at home and working from home.
Absolutely. All right, we're ready. That was a good talk. Oh, pause for just a moment. So the next few slides talk about We Are Black in Engineering, but if you all know names of people, that's cool. But quick shout outs. I know in the upper right, we have Leroy. So Leroy, we could talk about him in a little bit with the We Rise, but he's been great. Shakira also is in one of our videos. Junior faculty Brooke, who was one of our original
producers.
Yes. And then the other people.
I can tell you who the other people are. The upper left is Asher Williams. I cannot remember where she got her PhD from, but she was in our Black History Month videos. The bottom left is Simone Douglas. She recently got her PhD. She was in Manu Platt's lab in biomedical engineering. And the bottom right is Kazembe Kennedy. He got his PhD. I'm not sure where he got it from, but he also went to Morehouse. So he was in our We Are Black History video as well. And I think Simone was in all of our videos except for the first one. So.
He's amazing. So Tahira, I'm gonna let you talk about Sam, because I feel like
Yeah, so Sam, he's one of the original founders of the Academic Research Leadership Network. He's just been a great supporter of everything, just a lot of assistance behind the scenes. Yeah, just a great behind the scenes supporter in a lot of ways. Also a member of the board of the Academic Leadership Network Incorporated.
Okay. The top right is Winston Seeley, and he is a member of our Black Engineering Faculty Speak cast. So he's one of those people who I can always rely on to be in every video. So that's Winston with one of his robots. I'm not sure who the young lady is on the bottom left. I think I got that one from Twitter.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. But a lot of people gave us gave us photos during some of our Black in Engineering, Black in Computing Week. So they really connected back to us as well. And then
that's Terry Norton.
And then bottom right is Terry Norton. She's a very active member of the Black in Engineering Call to Actions. And she's been very, very integral in some of our videos as well.
Yes. Yes. Here are some more of our people. I know 3 of the 4. I don't know the person in the mask.
I don't either. And I can't tell who it is in the mask. I should have put the names under them. That is so my bad. I'm sorry. So we know who the top right is. That's Carmela Hayes, right?
Yes.
And she's at Georgia Tech.
She's amazing. So I would say we have a lot of people in Black in Engineering who have participated either in the videos or they've come to meetings, and Carmela just is so insightful with many of the direction that we're going. So she's amazing. So we had to get a picture of Carmela in there because she is so present and has been for the duration of this. In the lower right, I want to know his name, but I know he's at Vanderbilt.
That's Carl Zelick. He is
a
member of Black in Robotics. Yes.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah. So just got tenure, I believe.
Woohoo! And you know who that is on the bottom left?
Yes, that's Emmanuel.
Yeah. Bro. He was in our We Rise video. He was in our first one for sure. He had one of the most impactful statements in that one when he talked about being mistaken for custodian. So that always stuck out to us as Emmanuel Rowe. He is at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University.
Yes, very faithful as well. Oh yeah, Jesse. Jesse is amazing. One of our HBCU faculty, Morgan State University, assistant professor, industrial engineering in the upper left.
Bottom left is Shakira Hobbs. She's at University of Kentucky. Civil engineering? Is it civil? Okay. And then another member of our cast is in the bottom right, and that is Frank Pirtle III. Thank you. Frank Pirtle III. I'm gonna have to edit that out. Right. He's at a school in Florida who I can't remember. I don't think it's University of South Florida. Is it? I'm not sure, but there's a school in Florida.
It's not University of South Florida. Just look it up real quick.
I just want to say he's very faithful as well.
Okay.
Just amazing. And then
that is BC Bell, I think.
Yes, from Twitter.
And she's at Johns Hopkins University. And she's
it is University of South Florida.
Oh, it is? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And she's in Black in Robotics as well.
So this is what we do. You just read it.
Just read it. We're like those boys on YouTube who play the music.
That was the vision. That's what we're trying to do. So we had a call to action. We wanted to make sure we did this. And just a little bit of history for this is that we really decided, I think, in the first meeting that we wanted a call to action because we wanted people to kind of know what we were representing. Right. And we asked for volunteers every meeting. And the 2 people who took the lead on this were Cullen Bowie from MIT and Audrey Bowden from Vanderbilt. And they pretty much coordinated and they ran with it. Amazing. Just very substantive. You know, it wasn't just like they gave a little baby outline. Like, I think they took this and just gave us so much to work with. And people have talked about this nonstop.
And it's, schools are using it to make changes on their campuses. I think the coolest part is that when they came with this framework, they did a crowdsourcing thing where they put it on Google and people just logged on and edited and added content. And I remember Ibrahim Kendi quotes being added. And I was like, man, when have you ever seen a group of professors come together and not argue and quibble and be able to do something that impactful? It was amazing.
Of course, we focused on all these, the recommendations for the different groups. You can read it at the link below.
Right. So the initiatives, because it was just way too much for the video, please go to that link and read it, sign it, share it, challenge yourselves, and discuss ways in which you could implement these things on your campus or in your organization. It doesn't even have to be an academic institution. I'm sorry, but every time I'm waiting for the words to leave, I think about Tahira going, I read slow, but I don't read that slow. Sorry.
Yeah, version 1 of this thing was super slow. And I'm like, I'm not a fast reader. And even I was like, all right.
And I do read fast. So I was trying to be cognizant of people who don't. But you said that stuff is way too long.
I was like, it was taking long.
And then it was the whole way that you were putting it into. I don't know what that meant. I mean, not mess. What was that? It was something to my eyes. I couldn't do the bursts. It was,
but see, you know what I think about now, because now they disappear. Did you guys see the movie with the man with the jewels? What was that? That Marvel?
I don't watch that.
You don't watch that one with the jewels?
Relevant. That's not
and then
relevant.
after he put in the 5 jewels, like Black Panther disappeared and Captain America disappeared. Thanos. So
the jewels. Yeah.
So that's what I call it when the words disappear. They doing the Thanos or whoever it was. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about this. So all this came from Monica, because Monica's whole thing is always about her being in engineering education. Is how are we going to measure that they doing this? Are
First
they just
of all, that's not my voice. I don't talk like that. Thank you. Thank you.
So that's where this came from, is we were looking for a way to challenge people to not just read our call to action, but help us understand how you're using it. And we did a webinar where we used this. I think we did a couple of them where we would talk about not just our call to action, but what are you going to take back to your campus? What's actionable today with what you have on campus right now? What could you do? What have you already done? How are you going to sustain it? How are you going to measure it? And we came up with these jewels: ruby, emerald, sapphire, diamond, and onyx. Of course, the Black onyx had to be the top.
And you know what? We have not evaluated anybody according to this. I just realized this. It's still theoretical. So it's out there. One day will come. Just make sure you're doing the work so we can then evaluate you properly. Pop quiz.
It's only been a year. And one of the things, because ASEE has some similar type initiatives, we could look at ways of integrating our ranking with them, as well as the AAAS, C Change, and all of those. But yeah, we can't do everything in a year.
Carlotta, maybe you could talk about this, because this was like Black engineering faculty speak. This was you. So
a big thing that when we first started, I think we needed to do is we had to do something that was so different from anything we've ever done before. And it is not normal to see engineering or computer science faculty online. We're almost a little afraid of social media, because people have lost their jobs because of social media, but from saying the wrong thing. And we were trying to show that there is a way to get your message out and make an impact, and it'd be good for the social good. So that's what we're doing here, is a YouTube channel. When have you ever seen a group of professors or faculty or researchers have a YouTube channel where they just talk about things that are non-academic? We talk about academic things as well, but my inspiration for this was actually right after the George Floyd killing. There was a video from the NFL speaking out, taking a stand. And there was one from the, I want to say MLB. And I said, I want us to do that, but do that for faculty. So that video, the We Rise video, was actually first. And that's what inspired us to go. It was 7,000 views later. We should continue to do this. And one thing I've always liked to say is, we're not going to reach a broad swath of people presenting journal papers at conferences or poster presentations. We won't get those parts of the community who are not there. This, we can touch people from all over the world.
Yeah, this was our signature video. Like, this was what launched us.
Yeah, Leroy Long wrote the poem. It was, and I think the reason this happens is that I knew that Leroy wrote poetry, and I think we kind of commissioned him. to write something. So he did. And then I think we parsed it out into lines, and people then came to a meeting and decided who wanted to say what lines. And that's what it was. And because we're in a pandemic, of course, we used our phones and recorded our lines, at home or wherever we were. And so that's kind of how this all came together.
I got to give my comedy on this one. So Monica makes me laugh sometimes. So I was in the script and I was giving people suggestions for things they could do for their line. So for Monica's, I had Monica goes to the podium in the classroom and says such and such. And Monica writes me and goes, I'm not risking my life by going on campus. I'm sorry, I couldn't even get it out. It was so funny. I'm not risking my life to go on campus and stand in front of a podium for your video.
It can't be done out the house. It just
oh Lord.
But you have to admit, people really got into it. Like you see Frank here, running the
campus, yeah.
And then I think Shakira was in her bed because she was Donna Taylor. The hoodies,
yeah. Tahira was in her car. Somebody else was in their car too. I can't remember the other person that was in their car. And then Winston was kneeling in front of a fountain with his graduation cap on, like his regalia cap on. Oh, it was excellent. It was so much more than we ever could have. These nerdy engineers figured out how to feed into their inner creative and pull it out. It was so great. I loved it.
Yeah. And this is where Angelique Struthers, she sang at the end during the credits. And I think people were in a state to want to just do something and express themselves.
Yeah. So. I like to say it was like the perfect storm. George Floyd, Christian Cooper, Black in the Ivory, hashtag trending, and us all being at home. As horrible as 2020 was, us being on sabbatical, Monica stepping down from her position. If all those things had not come together in that exact perfect combination, we would not have been able to do this. So for all the wrong there was in 2020, God put all of this together just right for us to be able to do this. So I'm gonna let Monica take this and talk a little bit about the music, because that was the big part. My inspiration was Brown Sugar, because at the beginning of Brown Sugar, she goes, so when did you fall in love with hip hop? And she interviews all of these rap artists. So I wanted to do the same with engineers. But the music, we struggle with the music. And then Monica, I'll let you explain how we came up with the music.
Oh yeah, so my husband's a musician, and he had a friend who just does beats like in his sleep. Like that's just what he does. And I think Carlotta had a meeting with my husband and with this guy, Ernest Eccles, and he just kind of came up with something really quickly and sent it back, and that was it. And he gave that to us. And so it's just, once again, having resources, having a vision, and saying, this is what we want, who can provide this. And so we had so many people who just supported us. Like as we move forward, I just don't think that we had it all planned out, but when we needed somebody, it just came for us. It was great.
This was definitely an organic grassroots effort that became very powerful very quickly. It got away from us very quickly. I'm gonna stop you for a second. I think one of the coolest thing about some of these videos is we got some of the old heads in them. And what I mean by old heads is people who were our mentors, like Karen Butler Purry was on the previous slide. These are people who spoke to us when we were coming up, when we were little engineers, right? And now we're in that position to mentor others. So I just think it was so great that we got some of them to come out as well. So this was also a poem, and Cullen Bowie, the one who helped with our call to action, had written a poem, and he shared it with me just out the blue. He's like, I wrote a poem. I want you to see it. And then I wrote him back and said, is this for our video campaign? He was like, no, I just want to share the poem with you. No. We don't just share stuff. We don't hide our light under a bushel. So it took a couple of months, I say, but he finally agreed to let us make it into a video. And it was very powerful because of the two masks. It was a play on words, right? We're all in the pandemic. We're all wearing masks anyway. So now we talk about how do Black engineers or Black people move through the world in their various masks. We're not promoting code switching. We're talking about the reality of how we have to move through our lives, such as having to get up and go to work after Michael Brown or George Floyd was killed, and realizing all of your colleagues are having business as usual while you're over here thinking about racial injustice. Sorry, Monica, you're muted.
All right, I said one of the things that we didn't do was highlight some of the people in the videos. And so I see Janie Moore, JD Moore from Texas A&M, and then the other people.
This is Kevin Solomon here. I'm not sure what school he's at. And upper right, that is Michelle Rogers. Not sure what school she's from either. Sorry, guys. I'm not.
Kevin's at University of Delaware now.
Kevin, okay. Oh, I cannot remember where Michelle is. I'm sorry. It'll come to me as soon as we get in.
Our classics, Frank, Roy, Carlotta,
Winston. Yeah, those are our regular cast members. So they're in almost every video we do. And we got to shout out Tyrone Grandison. He made our website. He worked with, I believe, Winston or
yes.
Yeah. And they created our website, and also Chad Jenkins helped with that. And once again, we just started this movement. We had no money. So all of this was just hours and hours of volunteer work, building all of this up. And we could not be more grateful for that.
And actually, there were donations. People were giving donations to help us make the first video.
Yeah.
Before we had to open a bank account just because I'm like, they were sending it to me, Cash App, PayPal, and Carlotta and I, since we're both in the state of Indiana, I was like, okay, we're just gonna open up a joint account just so there's accountability. Even though it wasn't millions of dollars, we're like, it's still, I don't want it in my account, but that's what helped pay for the expenses for that first Black Engineering Faculty Speaks, We Rise video. People came out, I wanna say there were over 70 donors just from that, as small as $25 to up to $200. And there were people outside the community. I remember one person in particular sent me a check for $100. Like, look, I just wanna help Black brothers and sisters. He's a non-Black person, know that I care. And so, I mean, there was a good response in that way. And those funds were helpful in the first set of steps to form Academic Leadership Network Incorporated, the nonprofit. So,
yeah.
Monica, I thought you had something you wanted to share.
Oh, no.
One thing I want to say is the theme that I keep seeing is the collective efforts. Like, what happens when people just come together? When we had the time to work on it and people came out and gave donations, gave their talents, gave their time. I mean, yeah, I'm just seeing it, the power of collective effort.
Absolutely. And when we said we are Black in engineering, like you are beginning to see, like we may have been the face, but there were so many other people who made this happen and we could not do it without them. So this is why we're talking about them.
It's like we're becoming that Wakanda, right? The Wakanda pulling all our resources together to make something powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the website that Ty helped us make with the call to action, and the signatures and the views. And there was a circle I forgot to put on here. I think it's somewhere else. 9 countries have visited our website. Monica, did you want to talk a little bit about how this came about with Manu? Because I think I came late to this game plan for this one.
Yeah, so Manu, I wanted to mention one previous thing. So we had 250 people to sign the call to action. We appreciate all of those people, the allies and the advocates. This just came, it was a very organic conversation. We were just talking about HBCUs, and we all went to like Spelman or Morehouse, and we had a conversation, and we just talked about just what it was like going to those institutions. And Panama Jackson, who was one of the very smart brothers, just was very gung-ho. So I feel like we have to acknowledge him too, because he used his platform to really help acknowledge what we're doing and to amplify this. And I think you have it 7,000 or something views. So
yeah, it's still up, and every time I go back and check, there's still more views, so it's still going.
Yeah, I'll talk about this one really quickly. So this is my colleague Rami, who is from the University of South Carolina, and he just contacted me because he was really excited about social justice, and this is the topic he wanted me to talk about to his LinkedIn Live group.
I think Monica had been on Engineering Change podcast and on maybe was it Vanguard STEM, like right before we launched. So when they wanted us to come back, Monica's like, I'm gonna let you guys have it this time. And so it was kind of a natural transition to talk about Black in engineering in general. And then we brought Audrey and Cullen in particular to talk about how they created the call to action. And I noticed that she shares snippets of some of those conversations as blurbs. I saw them on social media. So I think that's really cool that it was obviously that impactful. She actually had a campaign of which episode was the most popular, and we really pushed for hours, but I have no idea who eventually won because I never went back to check.
It was the Black in engineering when I saw the graph. And
oh, good.
Yeah, when I looked at it was like 70 something percent. It was a lot.
Remember, because I was campaigning because she made a comment. She's like, you're really campaigning to win this. I'm like, yeah, ain't that what you do?
I saw that comment, but I didn't know what it was in relation to.
It was this episode. I kept telling people to go vote for it.
And you campaigned against my episode too. So I had.
I'm sorry. I thought you were the season before. I do apologize.
That's okay.
You're still involved, Mama.
I'm secure in who I am. Thank you. Shout out Dr. Pearson.
Yes, Yvette Pearson. I forgot to say her name and all that talking.
Yeah, so a webinar, we did this. And so this is what kind of like the workshop as it connected back to the call to action, where we had members of the American Society for Engineering come and engage with us. And it was good.
One of the things we heard from the organizers later is that our event was the highest pre-registration number. Not sure about in attendance, but the highest number of people had pre-registered for hours at the time. So that was really exciting. And based upon that webinar, we actually got some requests to do more of these. And we are busy professors, but that's one thing that we are considering doing as a paid service, obviously, is more of these webinars at universities.
Yep.
I think your first is always special. And the South Phoenix Oral History Podcast was the first podcast invite we got, which was in August 2020. And I believe everybody was there. So it was the three of us, and it was also Leroy and Brooke. I'm not sure if there was anyone else, but this oral history podcast is a small technical school, I believe, that actually just documents history. And they had seen our Black Engineering Faculty Speak video, and they wanted it to be part of this capsule of the history of what people are doing to be impactful and survive the pandemic. And so that was our first one. After that, the floodgates opened up though, and we were getting so many invitations.
Yeah, one other thing that happened too is a colleague that I know at University of Oklahoma had a reading group, a summer reading group, and downloaded the call to action, and it was like a book club, and they read it as a topic and had me, I think this was July, and they had me come to just dialogue with them and do Q&A. They literally had it printed out like a journal paper, staple with notes going through it as a part of the reading assignment that they had, it's a reading group of faculty that were at University of Oklahoma. So I just thought that was also really nice.
We also attended the National Society of Black Engineers twice. August 2020 was the one that was postponed from March 2020. And then we also did it in April 2021, where we talked to deans and minority engineering program directors about our Black in engineering work, including the call to action to figure out how to make it implementable on university campuses.
Yeah.
And Brooke wrote the Last Word article, to be seen, also not seen at all, about Black people in the academy being hyper visible as well as invisible. And Monica, did you want to talk about your Medium blog?
I know, it's just a Medium blog, you know, and it's so funny because I'm looking at stuff. I'm just kind of like, we did so much. I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired just looking at all the stuff that happened. It is really intense just to be like, and we did this, and we did this, and we did this, and we did this. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much. So that's why I'm quiet. At some point, I'm just read it.
Well, it's 2 minutes left in the video. Are you gonna make it?
I hope I will. Like a whole year in 6 minutes. It's hard.
It was, but we did it. We would have did 10 if they let us have 10. So 2 things I'm really excited about are those top 2 circles, because they have not happened yet. July 2021, we are going to virtual San Diego. We have been invited to do the distinguished lecture on Black in engineering along with Christopher Carr, who I believe is the current president of Mind. Is that right? Oh no, that's Trina Fletcher. I'm not sure what Chris's title is in Mind right now. He may have been a past chair of Mind, but he is also vice president at what school?
I think it's at George Washington University.
George Washington University,
Mason.
George Mason University in diversity, right?
Yeah.
So Chris came to a couple of our meetings, but we're looking really forward to doing that distinguished lecture, as well as presenting our paper for the Minorities in Engineering Division at ASAA.
Yes, Twitter.
So the Twitter account was started really, I think, to amplify our video more than anything. It was started in August 2020. I think the coolest thing about the banner after Monica took mine down is that these pictures came from the Black in Engineering, Black in Computing, because we did a joint week with them, roll call, right? And so all of these were engineers in their candid environments. And I think my personal favorite is Shakira. Because her in that STEM shirt with that big mask on, with that shield on, I'm like, this is so 2020, right? You could look at that and go, that was 2020. So even though we know that you wear those things in the lab anyway, but.
And one thing I want to say about this population is that we were able to connect to people who were outside the original ARL and out of the original network. And I think that there were some people who were social media averse, but this was like our younger generation. These were people who just were on the fringes. I mean, it was just weird. I feel like we brought a lot together via technology and it expanded the community somehow. So it's really been fun.
Absolutely. And we had about 3 networking events, and unfortunately, none of them got captured. This was the only picture I could find. And this was, I believe, the first one. And this was from Rashida Lewis's Twitter page that I found this, because I remembered she had captured a picture. But GatherTown was really fun. Going in and talking to people at the bar, sitting around a table and playing some kind of games that none of us really understood. But GatherTown is the move. I think I want to do that again.
Hashtag endorsement, please.
So this happened around the turn of the year, right around New Year's, actually December 28th. It's on the tweet. I'm not sure who this young lady is, but she tweeted the engineering, the face. And I was like, that would be a great campaign for Black in engineering. So we started helping her amplify that, and it just kind of took off. And all the way through New Year's Day, people were posting pictures of their face and what their engineering is. And so that's where this campaign came from.
I didn't even know that.
Some of the other pictures so these are some of the others to face the engineering.
Nice.
I'm gonna let these get all up and then I'm gonna stop it.
I'm already giggling because we talk about each other in love. These are all Carlotta's efforts. Excuse me, I have to sneeze, sorry. Because Carlotta is involved in like 50 organizations, and so all of those organizations are connected to us as well. And we did like a joint Black in Engineering, Black in Computing piece. And Black and X, are you the grandmother of Black and X? I'm not quite sure.
First of all, I ain't nobody's grandmama. If anything, I'm somebody's little sister.
You're the big sister of Black and X. But all these came together. So if you go to the internet, you'll notice that there's like Black in everything. And so, you know, we are just, Black in Engineering is one of many of the Blacks, the Black in.
The Blacks. So we probably work the most with Quincy Brown at Black in Computing, and shout out to her for helping us with our 501c3 process.
Yes.
And so because of that, her and I work together on a lot. So Quincy and I are working getting Black and X up and running, but it's really not our organization. It's not an organization at all. It's a network. It's the network of everyone else more than anything else. And because I help so much with Black in Robotics, and there is so much overlap with Black in Engineering, a lot of times these become BIE co-events because I'm there and I'm never going to be in a room and not say BIE because that was our first. And the same thing happened with the STEM Wikipedia Editathon. I wasn't the only one there. There were other BIE people there. Jasmine Brown, she's BIE as well as BIR. So, but these partnerships are really important because for us to be the most impactful, we have to touch on the most people.
Oh, and tax deductible donations. Can we please talk about that? Tahira is the treasurer, so.
Yes, so I am the treasurer for the Academic Leadership Network Incorporated. And so, yes, I handle all the donations. So yes, use the link, donate. You could go to the blackinengineering.org website, and there is a link to donate through PayPal. If you do not want to use PayPal and want to send a regular check, you can send an email. There's information on where to send the email so that you can be provided with a physical mailing address to mail a check.
Great. And so this is kind of how things work. We have so many different we have a sister, and I feel like we had a parent. We had a lot going on. And so we started with the ARL network. We were very appreciative to be able to tap into the network that was already built, and Black in Engineering just became, like I said, an extension of that. And to make this nonpartisan, so to speak, like outside of an actual organization, that's where that Academic Leadership Network Inc. came from, that you see with the donation that we discussed below. So we're officers in that, and we're just taking this to another level to be formal, to be legit, and to make sure that we are decent and in order with this.
I think if I were to do this graphic over, I would include maybe another side to Black in Engineering, like people with an arrow pointing in, because as Monica mentioned, we have a lot of people who are now starting to come into Black in Engineering, but not through the ARLN network. We're building a community of people who are not necessarily faculty or PhDs, but who are now helping us as well. So maybe next time we do this presentation, you would see a little bit another side of this that looks at that as well.
So a lot of people would ask us what's next. And I think that we are really starting to form communities. We're realizing that we're not isolated. And I think that's one of the big lessons from the pandemic. I think I felt more alone before Black in Engineering. And now I just feel like I know people, like I have a community, and we meet monthly. So that's amazing. We have social media. And so we have so many frequent touch points now that is an amazing outcome of this.
One thing Monica asked earlier today is, how do you think BIE has affected your life? or in this last year. And I think for me, I've always been kind of outspoken, especially about things personal to me. But about social justice, I am much more now, not just in person, but online. In fact, I would never before have been all that comfortable talking a lot about the need for diversity and racial injustice. But us coming together as a community has made all of us speak more boldly. One of the things we talked about with that first video is we still need to protect our untenured faculty. We need to make sure that when we speak with one voice, and this is not one individual speaking out who could be targeted. And because of that, I think we all have now more prominently found our voices, even if Monica was always there, but to get the rest of us there.
Yeah, to add to that, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I tend to be this one that's heads down, do my work, that kind of thing. And I think BIE has given me almost permission to not be quiet. It's like, you just know things are wrong and you don't know exactly how to address it. And I mean, I was putting stuff on LinkedIn. I was like, I don't care about all these jobs. I was posting things on LinkedIn and I got so many responses from it. And, so people contact me asking me questions. Hey, the call to action, how do we best do this in our department? Can you give me feedback? And yeah, so long story short, I'm not as quiet anymore. I speak up about things, and yeah.
Yeah, so I will say I've always been outspoken. I really have. And it just feels like everybody else caught up. I don't mean that in a cocky way, but it's like, I've been saying this. Everybody's like, Monica, you're so radical. Well, can y'all be radical now? And so I just feel like truly I cannot go back to how things were. And that is the thing that I think about. I think there's a lot of performative work that happens in the academy. And I can't tolerate it anymore. Like, it just kind of makes me sick. Like, if I see people playing games, I'm like, I have to call you out. And I feel like this is a brand. I'm very big in branding, but, I was telling Carlotta and Tahira, I said, welcome to the light side, not the dark side, but this is the light side. Once you on this side, you can't go back. And, you're marked. So we have to keep moving. We cannot go back to as things were. We're leaders now. And so you have to own that.
It's like you said, silence is no longer an option. I just can't hold my peace anymore. And I now have found that some of my coworkers look to me for that. Like, some of them will email me something like, I know you're doing work in this area. I found this article about this program where they're trying to increase the number of Black women faculty. I thought I'd share it with you because they now know. Like, I don't know why they didn't think I would care about it before, but now they share things with me.
Yeah. Right. And one of the last things we need to go is that, like, looking back a year ago, this was risky. And I will say that I feel like it's risky because it could have failed. First of all, we could have just been like, we're going to have a meeting, and then no one rallied around it. Like, people just didn't care, but that didn't happen. And I think it could have failed because people in our organizations could have seen us as militant. I do think people still think I am militant, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we've been recognized, like distinguished lecture and awards and being able to do stuff. And we didn't do it for that reason, but to see that as the result has been a blessing.
I think there's strength and safety in numbers.
There's a quote you said, Monica, in the presentation at NSBE. And oh gosh, you're gonna have to correct me, but it was something like, I'm not an angry Black woman.
Yeah.
I'm a Black woman. Can you say the quote? Because everybody was like, that's it right there.
Yeah. So that came to me one day. I said, I'm not an angry Black woman. I'm a Black woman whose questions make people angry. That's the difference.
Right.
That's it.
But it's easier to label you as angry than to try to handle the uncomfortable questions. Mm-hmm. It's a way for them to defer and to dodge. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we're not going back. I feel like this is amazing. And with this being the anniversary of George Floyd's death, I mean, we honor him and we honor so many of the other people whose lives have been lost. But I hope that, like, what we are doing somehow I don't know, it's a tribute in a way. I mean, we don't want them to be gone, but then we want to acknowledge their sacrifices. And I hope that by our speaking up and saying that people matter and that he mattered and voices need to be heard, it will help other people to be bolder when injustices happen too. That's kind of what I'm taking away from this. It's a bittersweet day.
Right.
Yeah. It was definitely a sobering day to be reminded that this is the day it happened a year ago.
Yeah.
I had to go and spend 30 minutes one night last week just to find this upper left picture, because I knew I wanted all of us on the slide, but I don't think it would have been complete without the ARLS picture. Because we were just some naive little youngins back in 2017 at the Academic Research and Leadership Symposium. I want to say, is this Kansas City? I think it's Kansas City. I'm not sure.
Oh man.
It was Nesby and Aaron.
I think it was.
Because we had a barbecue joint.
Yes. Kansas City.
And who knew that those little youngins would start a movement?
Exactly. Exactly. And we'll put the link to the movement. I found that video and I was like, I just watched a video. I taught a class in leadership and I was like, how do you start a social movement? And so it's like
a Khan Academy video, it looks like.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But anyway, look, our time is limited. I know we have to go, but is that it? Thank you. I mean, any final, just thank you, gratitude. I don't know. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. And let's keep walking. It's not over. Just keep moving forward, keep being that light.
Yes. And we have some beautiful people in engineering. That's what I want to say too. We are a beautiful people.
We are. I wanted to stop here for a minute and shout out Rahim Beya, who sent out that initial email that got the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Tequila Harris, who told us about that email.
Yeah.
And Sam Graham, who came to several of our meetings and also supported us.
Absolutely.
Everyone underneath this, underneath them was somebody who did something special for the movement. I don't know if we're gonna remember it right now though.
Yeah, I think we talked about a lot of them in here. I don't know, did we mention Manu? But Manu and Brandy, and Manu has just been there. He's been everywhere as well. And so just to shout him out, yeah, Trina, see a lot of people. Thank you. ASEE has really shouted us out this year. They've loved us. So thank you.
They've always on social media supporting our work. Always.
Absolutely. So follow us. All the platforms. And MC Hammer, could I give a shout out to MC Hammer?
Yes. He supports all the STEAM X.
He sure does.
I like to call it.
He sure does. We share the same birthday. So there's something special there.
And that's actually the end of the video, ladies. So here's what my vision. I could put the full video on YouTube and then we upload the link to the YouTube on BIE. But I think it would also be impactful to make the video into snippets, which means they can't be more than 2 minutes, and put 2-minute snippets on the Twitter channel. Like maybe one a day for the next month or something.
Minutes is 2 minutes. 6 divided by 2 is 3. We can't do this for 30 days. What you talking about?
Well, I don't know. Okay, all right. So what you want one?
Unless you have some of the, like, frame it in terms of questions. So sort of like, you know, FAQ, pretend that they're FAQs, like, how did y'all end up with that logo? And then, you know, show a little video snippet, or how did you first get started? Like something that's a general, like a
right. That's what I was thinking, Tahira, because the video is 6 minutes, but we didn't talk for 6 minutes. We talked for way more than 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was going to separate the snippets by topics, like Tahira saying.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, and like frame the question and make it sound so compelling. Like, who came up with the lyrics to the you know, almost like trivia, like turn it into trivia. Who came up with the lyrics to We Rise? Leroy, you know, and then you tell the story of Leroy, blah, 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 blah.
And this was archived. I mean, like, this is cool. This is our history. We just did a history project for Black in Engineering for people to just know what happened. So yay.
We might find somebody.
Yeah.
Find someone who might want to archive it.
I love it. Well, thank you all. This has been real. I feel good. I feel like we did something positive.
Yes. On the day of, if this man didn't die, Black and Engineer, I don't think would be here.
I agree. If George Floyd had not died, if Christian Cooper had not happened, Black Birders Week happened,
Breonna Taylor,
Ivory, the pandemic, working from home. I'm telling you, it had to be that perfect storm.
It had to be all of them. If
All
one
of
was
them.
missing, I don't know that it would have happened. Like if we would have had all that and George Floyd didn't die, because that thing was so appalling. And it was so visible. I mean, you had people in Israel, Ireland, they were protesting. The New York Times had it wrong. They said it was the largest protest in U.S. history. No, this thing went global. Until the globe protested, they didn't arrest them guys.
When I saw those marches in like places like Utah and there wasn't even a Black face in the crowd, that's when I knew this was bigger than any protest before.
But you know what? We also didn't talk about the election. I mean, you know what I mean? Like we had a lot going on because this time last year, we were also like, oh my gosh, Trump is up for re-election. And are we gonna like die? Are we gonna be sent home on slave ships? I mean, I feel like it was also, why are you giggling? Because you know it's real. It's like this could be like the end of our lives.
It might be the last election we ever have.
I mean, I feel like that because it was just like this fool was up here talking about putting bleach in your veins. And we like, oh no, we are the engineers. We are the ones with good sense. And so we're gonna come out. I feel like that motivated some folks too. Like y'all could be apathetic if you want, but people are dying. Thousands of people were dying. Like it's not just the pandemic, like we at home, but it's like we didn't know almost 600,000 people were going to be dead now. And it's ooh, you know, couldn't go to.
I always thought it was almost over. Like, okay, we're gonna be 2 months at home and then go back to normal. 3 months at home, go back to normal, and it just kept going on and on and on.
And then yes, and like you said, all these people were like, Trump could come back in here, and we didn't talk about the insurrection that happened in January.
Oh, I mean, God,
so much. We went through hell last year. I don't care what anybody says. It was just like too much. It like
was a lot.
Spiritually, you know how you read about stuff spiritually, and you just like, what was this? Was this a doggone play? Like, what were we going through? You know what I mean? Like, it's stuff that you read about, but it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it's just like, are we gonna live? Like, what is this mess? Let me put some blood on the door. Pass over, Lord. Don't come in here.
And out of all of that,
Satan, what is this?
Black in engineering was born, and like Tahira said, it wouldn't have been birthed under any other situation.
But you know, but people were humble too. I ain't ever seen folks in the system humble before. Like, you know, it was just that like when Columbus, Ohio downtown is shut down, like you better care. I feel like it affected every single person. It affected people's jobs, ability to vacation, and at no other point in history has anything stopped everyone and put us on that same field of just helplessness, because COVID was killing everybody. It was everybody had to take care of their kids at home. All the daycares were closed. All the schools were closed. Nobody could fly.
And people who do research in environmental science, this was a massive experiment they could have never done. And they saw like numbers go down and, you know, the carbon. And I mean, it was a whole big, they saw the impact on the environment.
Disappeared. Now they're back with a vengeance.
Who?
Mass shootings. You know, they said mass shootings basically went down to zero.
Yes.
Everybody had to stay home.
And you know what? We were humble too, because we realized we weren't essential. Was anybody else humbled by that? Like, you know, everybody was talking about essential workers, and essential workers were the ones who were blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know what, engineers, y'all ain't essential.
Let me tell you something else that was a blessing. Speaking of the ivory tower, schools figured out you don't need to have the GRE and the SAT and ACT scores to let kids in school. All those old fogies figured out how to teach online, who said they never wanted to teach online because the efficacy of the learning is not the same. All of a sudden they figured out how to do it, and that the university can still run with all of us at home.
Yeah. And churches all have to pivot.
You still getting your money. You can preach. My girlfriend went to a church that they're still doing drive-in church. So you drive in and you pass your money to the bucket that they walking around through the cars. It's like a big drive-in movie for church.
Yeah. It flipped everything. Like I would love to hear people talk about that, because everything that we thought was what as it should be changed.
Right. People said it was impossible until they had to make it possible.
Absolutely.
All this is going in the video too, by the way, because this is good. This is a good conversation.
Thank you. All right. Anyway, peeps.
Go take care of the baby. This is a good idea, Monica. Thank you for that.
And you know what? Hold it. This is the final lesson, because we've had to practice this. I'm gonna take this to y'all as a business lesson too. Y'all gonna get a little bit of business mentoring, just a little bit. This is how you have to launch stuff too. Sometimes you can't just overthink it. It's like, I have this idea, it could fail, but what if it doesn't? And so, this was us coming up with another idea. This is how you do your business too.